record. Oh, wow, that was new. Okay, so this meeting is being recorded. As everybody knows, welcome. This is the second session of the Puzzling Truth, the surprising benefits of puzzles for individuals with dementia and why you need to include them in your TR program. Our speaker is Melissa Gallagher-Cashman. She has a whole lot of letters behind her name. She is the president and owner of Creative Caregiving Solutions, and she was very much generous enough to allow us to redo this session so that we can ensure that it was recorded live so that everybody can actually see the second part and participate in the discussion. So without further ado, if you have any questions that are conference related, please comment below. If you have any other comments or feedback that you'd like to share with Melissa, please also chat below and I will shout them out, or you can as well. Otherwise, I'm going to turn my screen off and my sound off, but if anybody needs anything, just comment below and we are right here. So without further ado, Melissa, I hand it over to you.
Thank you, Sherry. Welcome, everyone, and thank you, Nystra, again for this wonderful conference, and I'm really happy to be presenting, and thank you for all your hard work. I know this has been really challenging and different. I could speak to that after giving my class yesterday, first time via Zoom, the 8-hour Alzheimer's disease and dementia care seminar. So if my voice cracks a little bit, I apologize for that. So we'll get started. Thank you for the nice introduction. So you kind of know what I do. And I'll tell you a little bit about why I did this presentation. As Sherry and I were speaking, I think when you work with this population, when you work with individuals who have dementia, you have a lot of things going on. You are always, I mean, in any other setting, you're dealing with different functioning levels, but you know, it gets tricky, and we always want to stay true to doing, you know, true recreation therapy. So what I put together with the first part and then this second part is, you know, there should be something for everyone, no matter, you know, what level of functioning. And I kind of use that instead of stages. There are stages of dementia, but, you know, everybody is unique, and you may be working with people who are in the earlier stages or later stages, but it all depends on how the disease is progressing and what skills are remaining intact and what their level of functioning is. So just keep that in mind as we go throughout. And I try to incorporate some things for people who are a little more progressed, because I know that that becomes very challenging. There are puzzles for everyone. So the last part, we left off talking all about puzzles and all of the evidence-based research behind them. So I thought it would be just fun to talk a little bit, you know, game versus puzzle. So a game is an activity or sport usually involving skill, knowledge, or chance, in which you follow fixed rules and try to win against an opponent or to solve a puzzle. So, you know, some examples. We know about Trouble and Chutes and Ladders. These are just some games off the top of my head, I was thinking. Then there's checkers and chess, tic-tac-toe, some games that require a little bit more strategy. And then there's things like Twister, Monopoly, Trivial Pursuit, Connect Four. They kind of involve skill, but also chance. You know, you don't know where your opponent will drop that checker down. And then this is a review from the first part. So what is a puzzle? Again, a puzzle is a game, a problem, or toy that tests a person's ingenuity or knowledge. The solver is expected to put pieces together in a logical way in order to arrive at the correct or fun solution of the puzzle. So basically, any of the puzzles that I'm showing you in some way, shape, or form, there's really only one solution that you can arrive at the end. So puzzles are meant to be solved. Games come with more surprises. You're thinking, strategizing, and discovering. Games pass time with a specific set of rules and a specified end in which 2 or more players compete against each other. Instead of a set of rules for doing a puzzle, there is a stated goal with maybe 1 or 2 rules on how to proceed. So very simply, you're putting together a jigsaw puzzle, say, you know, how you get there, especially with folks who have dementia, you know, whatever way you get there to get it completed, that's totally up to you, or up to the therapist to help the person get to that goal, making the puzzle look like the picture on the box in that particular puzzle. So there are exceptions, and of course there are overlapping. Puzzles are often called solitaire games. Some puzzles are set up so that there is a competition among puzzle solvers. I think about Wheel of Fortune. I happen to enjoy playing that. I like word games like that. So that's kind of in a group setting. You could do that. Then you can use the same materials for both a game and a puzzle. One example is dominoes, and then in the next slide I will show you that. I've always been about, you know, taking things that you have and trying to make them into something else. I'm sure that all of you could probably share the same experience, that when you work in this setting, you are constantly trying to adapt things because you see these great things, but then you think, gee, how will that work, you know, with the people that I work with? They may not be able to do that part, but yet I have all this stuff over here. So I've learned some stuff along the way, and I will be happy to share it with you today. And as far as solitaire is considered a puzzle. It's a game, but you also have, it depends on how, you know, the cards are kind of, when you shuffle them up, how they're all laid out. So kind of a puzzle. And then bananagram tiles. I actually have them here with me. I will show these to you. I don't know how many people are familiar with using these. These are a really great resource for me. I use these a lot. You can get them, you get everything on Amazon, right? You can get toothpaste and bananagrams. You can get anything. I actually got these in Target, so you can get them right there. And what it is, it's actually a game. Really is considered a game, but used as a puzzle. It's a puzzle game similar to Scrabble, and it has all these letters. Okay, if you look at the picture there, that's actually a breakdown of how many. Also a very good example, as I go along, I may just kind of, you know, share these things. It's also a very good example of how you can take what the intention of this game is and maybe have somebody that cannot put words together anymore. Because let's face it, you know, Scrabble, things like this, if the person is not able to use language in a way where they can construct words, they cannot play this game, they cannot do the game that way. I will show you a little bit later on. There are things that they may be able to do. And this is one of them. Basically, it's matching the letters. So this is bananagrams. And it does come with rules, you know, if you actually want to play it as a game. Dominoes. You know, when you think about dominoes, I have a whole bag of them here. You know, it's a great game. There's a lot of things that you can do with dominoes. I'm just going to actually move this. Try and move this so I can see. There's a lot of ways that you can use dominoes as a puzzle. So on the one picture where it shows it all laid out like you play the game, it can sometimes be confusing for people when you are playing it as a game because it's not really one step. They get confused by they have a choice. You know, you have to put the 4 over there, you have to put a 5 over there. So sometimes dominoes gets confusing, you know, for people who can only follow one step direction. So the picture on the right, and I have a whole bunch here too, I learned this, actually, I learned this about 3, maybe 4 years ago. Somebody, 2 young ladies had done they did a presentation on the Montessori method in programming for individuals with dementia. And then I actually took the class just recently to get certified, which by the way, you get CEUs for. So I learned some things about how to use dominoes, basically taking a picture like that. Now it's a puzzle. Okay, so what the person has to do is, obviously, again, you can adapt this for many functioning levels. So you could take a picture like the one with the 4 dominoes, and you can provide the 4 dominoes to match to that. So that's one place of starting. You can also adapt it and making the pictures a little bit more complicated. Let me put this back. A little bit more complicated. Okay, you can also make it a little more challenging by adding extra dominoes to the one. So these are ways that you can start simple and get very complicated. What you can do, I wanted to show you this picture. I wouldn't make the pictures this large. I mean, you could if you wanted to, and I laminate everything. So once you do that, you can wipe it clean, and then you can wipe the dominoes. You can use it with anybody. This one here, if you look, they're actually spaced further, a little bit further apart. I apologize. I taught a class for 8 hours yesterday, so bear with me. So this is one way of adapting it to make it a little easier for someone. So I just have all these different examples here, and this could be from just a bunch of domino games. It's a good way to kind of repurpose something here. Dominoes. All right, so game or puzzle. I looked up a lot of this information, a barrel of monkeys. Now I'm like kind of dating myself. I used to enjoy playing with these when I was a kid, and I haven't been able to find them, but they used to make them in a bigger barrel. And as a kid, I like to chain them all, and I had them all over the house. So I guess I drove everybody crazy, but it's a game, but, and again, it's person appropriate, it's a kid's game, but I'll tell you one thing, it's really hard. I've been doing this all week, and try this game. It is very difficult. I'm going to put this like this. The whole idea of this game is to link the monkeys by, trying to grab their hand side. It's really hard to do. You have to get it in a certain way. So this actually is a game, but it's a puzzle because there's really only one way to do it. You really can't join the monkeys any other way. And, it does work on a lot of skills. There's eye-hand coordination. There's really focusing. You really have to focus your attention to complete that. And of course, fine motor skills. Jenga, I'm sure some of you have played this. Really more of a game, okay? Because there's a lot of other things that come into play that affect the outcome, right? But it's a fun game. All right, so now here's where we get into, there are a lot of people who comment about a lot of the different things, that maybe you use or maybe that I use. These are they're actually called bristle blocks. And, as I said, I'm always trying to find things. I do work with a lot of people who are, progressed in their dementia. And I'm always looking for puzzles, that'll work. So, giving somebody, to just try to use it as a toy, so to speak, or an independent activity or recreation activity to kind of give it to them and, explore what they do. Well, that's one way to do it. But when you do something like this and you take a picture of it for the person and you maybe something like this too, actually give them a picture that they have to assemble. And again, you can make it as easy or as challenging as you want. Start, easy and then build up. Because this is actually using sequencing, because people are having to follow a pattern. There's a whole bunch of things that go into this. And if you watch the first part, you know that there's a lot of research out there supporting all of the outcomes, positive outcomes, and benefits of puzzles. So this is just another example. I think it's good, to have for people when, maybe they can't do word puzzles anymore, or even just a jigsaw puzzle with a picture is visually, too challenging for them. And I also use some of these interventions, I want to mention that too, with people that, sometimes all of a sudden I see that, they love to do jigsaw puzzles. They've gotten to a point where they can do a certain number of pieces or, more complicated picture, but they start to have some trouble in certain areas. Trying to use different things that work on certain skills as an intervention are a great idea. And dominoes is also a great resource too, because I actually used that with one of my clients who he had been ill And, you know, he was taking a little bit of time to kind of get back to where he was. So I tried some different things, and I used the domino puzzle. And then I think he kind of remembered, okay, this is, you know, everything kind of was coming back to him about what it is he was actually doing when putting a jigsaw puzzle together. So then I have these here too, you know, and some of these things, you know, you have to try to make things not look childish. You know, one thing I find, and I'll show you this, you know, things for kids, they're a lot of times they're in like the primary colors. You can just choose 2 colors. I mean, you could paint them yourself. I think that if you watch this today, I'm a creative person. I get ideas all the time. I'm always looking at how can I make something, you know, more adult, more person-centered. What pictures can I use? How can I change it to make it better for the person? So that's just an example here. You see the picture there, and then on the right, you know, what showing the person this is what you have, or putting it in front of them. I use a lot of words too with my clients, you know, giving the direction, you know, please assemble the beads or something like that as I'm talking and as I'm doing. So that's an example of a puzzle, because that's what the solution is. You want to take the string and string them on. Again, a lot of different skills coming into play there. You know, somebody that possibly liked to sew, somebody maybe, you can use this in other settings too, somebody that maybe likes to make jewelry and maybe they need to get better, using larger beads like this can certainly help them. Again, another example. I have so many things around here, and I thought I had everything all laid out in order. Yeah. I like these. Again, you know, trying to, you could paint them if you want, maybe different colors, but these are great because you actually have to assemble them. So not only, you know, this, again, you can start with a very basic goal for somebody, whatever you're working on with them, just taking it and putting into and having to screw it in. That in itself could be a goal to be able to do the puzzle. And then, you know, set up a picture for them and giving them just the pieces, or maybe just starting with, you know, 1 or 2 to make it easier. There's a lot of other different movements. You know, you probably notice this depending on, you know, where you work and what exactly you do. But again, I work with clients individually in the community, in their home, doing a lot of virtual right now. But, you know, as things are progressing and you see this and people are doing less, they're, you know, unless they're really involved in things, they're losing a lot of those skills. And, you know, when they lose them, it's really difficult to get them back when they're losing them because of motor functioning, because of their disease. So their dementia from whatever disease that's progressing. So we want to keep them active in doing, and as I'll show you in a little bit, just reaching too, just instead of, you know, they're kind of often contained into this little bubble of how they're moving. We want people to be able to be independent and do as much as they can for as long as they can. Any questions on that whole, oh, and there's one more here. I'm sorry, I want to show you this one too. This one, it's an activity. It's not really a game. It is more of a puzzle. I don't really like the way it comes, but that's my opinion. You know, I have sent away for a lot of different things, and sometimes I have to change them because they don't really work for what I need. But I will give you all of these resources at the end. So I don't like the name of the company either. It's called Keeping Busy. You know, I don't really like that. We're not giving people things just to keep them busy. But they do have some nice activities you can purchase, and then, you know, you can kind of make your own once you understand the idea. And what I like about this is if you have, these are from, people used to actually hang their laundry on a clothesline before dryers. But they come with these clothespins. They do still sell the wooden ones in the dollar store. Again, it's another activity you could possibly do, you know, with some of the folks you work with, and get them to paint them for you. Could be an activity, a program in itself. And it comes with this card that has colors. So basically the idea is to match the colors. Now, when people progress, that is one of the functioning areas, as I will show you as we go on. A person may not be able to do that anymore. So obviously this is not a good puzzle for them. But if they still can, you know, being able to sort things by color and identify is, you know, something that you can use in all different puzzles, whether, you know, they kind of need to do that in jigsaw puzzles, understanding matching the colors, a matching game. So what I like to do is I like to, if I'm trying to help people with their reach, see my arms, you can get like any kind of container or box, and you can paint 4 sides, and then they have to match, they have to clip it. So they're doing this. They are matching, that's the cognitive part, okay? They are having to match the color, and they're now having to reach, and you can put it further away so that they are actually doing this motion. And that actually becomes very important later on, as I'm sure many of you know, depending on where you work. So I work on that a lot with people, because a lot of folks that I work with, you know, as they progress, we want them to still be able to eat. I mentioned this in the first part. You know, if your arms are not strong enough, a lot of times that gets misinterpreted for somebody, you know, oh, they don't remember how, you know, to bring the fork or the spoon to their mouth. It could just be that they don't have the strength. And we can actually work on that. Let me just minimize this so I can read it. So types of puzzles, jigsaw puzzles. Obviously, we hear about that the most. There are other types. If you are a person that enjoys doing jigsaw puzzles, you are a dissectologist. That's the word. They were invented in 1760 by a man named John Spilsbury. And he was a cartographer, and he basically mounted a map and on a big sheet of wood, and then sawed all the different states, and that's how we taught geography. So that's how a puzzle was born. So everyday items, because again, you know, you want to do things for people in a functional way, you know, in a fun way. They're doing an activity that's fun, a puzzle, but, you know, what are the outcomes that you want? You know, if you want people to be able to do things and match things and function in their environment and enjoy their life, this is something simple that you can do. You can just basically take items from your, I took this from my kitchen, and template puzzles are also a great way to introduce people or, you know, remotivate them to do puzzles, because it's very simple. You're just matching the shape to the shape on the page. And you, again, you can laminate this and you can use this as a puzzle. Tangrams, I'm sure you've heard of that. This one, I kind of like this one because it's not, you know, again, it's not those primary colors. I just saw this online. It's, you know, it could be quite challenging for somebody to put that together. But again, I wanted to show something for everyone here. So you can purchase things like that made out of wood. What I like on the right there, it's kind of like a variation on tangrams. I actually have used this with several of my clients. The gentleman that I spoke of in the first part of this, he was, again, this is something else I used when he was kind of at a point where he was doing a 24-piece puzzle. He was even doing some 30-piece puzzles, and then some things were going on and he was getting frustrated. So I put something else in there, and basically they are these magnetic shapes and they have pictures in there. Again, you have to go through and kind of look at what, you know, what is maybe too childish. There's some also very complicated ones in there. There's like a boat, which is very simple. It would be fine. And then the person has to match, you know, the part of the boat, you know, the large triangle and so on. I don't have this one here with me. It's in New York. So I live in South Carolina. So I was not able to really show that to you, but that's another great thing to look into because it is a puzzle. You have to actually fit the pieces on the picture. So, so again, talking about, you know, assessing a person, I know a lot of the things that I've been watching so far, a lot of the presentations, you know, we're all kind of, hopefully we're all on the same page as far as, you know, finding things that are evidence-based. We want programs that are evidence-based, and we want to, if you want to figure out, you know, if the activity or part of your program, you know, is working or appropriate for the person, you know, activity analysis is a great way, because you have to think about what are all of the things, again, just using my jigsaw puzzle here, you know, what are all the things, what are all the steps to putting a jigsaw puzzle together? And then we look to the person, and these are all of the things that actually go into play, you know, sensory, like, you know, touch, motor, you know, use of, I talk a lot about use of hands, ability to hold things, their social, you know, if you're doing this in a group setting, or can they carry on a conversation, their cognitive functioning, can they count, can they use a template? These are all things in a simple form, looking at their strengths. Going further, assessing, you know, what do they need? So again, speaking specifically, these are all parts of, you know, setting up a jigsaw puzzle. You know, can they take the pieces out of the box, you know, and lay them all out upright? Right there, that in itself is, you know, that's part of the task. That in itself could be a goal for somebody, you know, if they are not, you know, really doing it independently. You want them to get them to take the pieces out and lay them all out. What prompting do they need? Do they need any, you know, assistance, you know, in the beginning, just to kind of get them on track? If they have not performed the task of a puzzle, you know, make it interesting, person-centered. Again, we go back to, you know, if you're doing jigsaw puzzles, what's the picture on the box? You know, this is, you know, vegetables. This somebody that possibly like to have a vegetable garden. And also, you know, what is their tolerance, their dexterity? They do not really need to completely understand the goal of what you are trying to get them to do, but they obviously, they need to understand the steps on how to get there. They need to be able to do the steps. We talked about visual spatial skills in the beginning of the first part of this presentation, you know, matching colors, what % accuracy, how long to put the pieces together. You know, I've never really made that a goal with people as far as how long it takes them. But, you know, obviously if someone is really struggling and, you know, and it's not an enjoyable activity anymore, then you have to change something. Visual scanning, you know, starting with a few pieces, that's a good idea too. You know, we'll talk about setup in a few minutes. Maybe you don't put out the entire box, and you know what, for some folks, you know, as they're progressing and they can still do part of the activity, we talk about this a lot, maybe their goal isn't to complete the entire thing. Maybe it's just to be able to complete some of those steps, and you're doing it together. You know, it's more of like a social thing too, or with a loved one. Crossing midline, I kind of talked about that a few minutes ago, where, you know, trying to get people to extend their arms and reach, because that's functioning. So, you know, maybe you're putting the pieces a little bit further away. That's another way to kind of build when you're writing, you know, goals for someone. Their range of motion and their fine gross motor, using a felt board. I have these puzzles here. As I go along, I want to show it to you because I might forget later on. And also I'll share with you too, you know, puzzles that I used when I first started out, some of them I don't use anymore because I found things that work better, but then I go back to them when I'm looking to do something different. So there's a company called Active Minds. All right, and they put puzzles out like this. I don't know if anyone has ever seen this. We'll get back to this type of puzzle in a minute, but this is the name of the company. It's called Active Minds. Now, I hadn't used these in a while, and basically what they are, this one is called Tool Shed, I believe. It comes with a board like this, okay? And these pieces are magnetic. So, you know, you can take them and you can put them. You could do a lot of things with this. It comes with all of these different pieces, okay? What what I like about this now, having, worked with people who are, really struggling to really using their arms a lot, is, using this and putting it, so that the person would have to reach for it. So again, it's using that idea of putting the pieces far away. You can even do a magnetic jigsaw puzzle where the person would have to do it. I know you won't see me for a second, but you're putting it in front of them and they're having to reach to put the pieces on. So, that's good for that. Again, one of the things we have been talking about, and we had good conversation about this yesterday in the class, is that a lot of companies are going to have to change their pictures and things they use. Like this one, it's good for somebody who liked to bake. I would, eggs don't really, they still look like eggs, right? Bowls and such, but like some of the things, people don't really use this anymore. So, think about that for yourself too. I hope that people do, start to change things as, some of these people that we're serving now, the memories and the things that they experienced, are different from, people that we'll be serving in the future.
Melissa, the question was asked of what the name of the company is again. Is it Active Minds?
It is called Active Minds, but they have, in fact, I give you the website at the end. I think it's activemind.org or something, but it's called Active Minds.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I wanted to show you one other thing before, like I said, before I forget to show it to you later. Again, I have ordered things in hopes that, just to see what they would be like. The one thing that I know about jigsaw puzzles that I will tell you is that, there's really there's no right way for somebody to put it together. I know, most people who do them, I know for myself, I do like to separate them. I like to put the ends, and then, I like to then, of course, go to the colors after that. A lot of people with dementia don't really do that unless they, perhaps they're in the earlier stages and they do jigsaw puzzles regularly, and that's their method. There is no right or wrong way. If a person can, successfully complete a 12-piece jigsaw puzzles independently, and they put all the colors together first, so what? That's the way that works best for them. But this is something that I ordered. It came from Keeping Busy, and it sounded really, the idea I think is okay, but what they did was, this is what the puzzle is supposed to look like. So it's, puppies, and then they send you this board, and I look at this board right away. I do not have dementia, and it is a lot of things going on this board. Okay, so you got the picture behind there, and I do see where they were going with it. They have, like some outline of green, and then they give you the pieces in little baggies, like, as you can see, I haven't used this, but they give you blue pieces, they give you red pieces. Again, they have the thing on the back. I would really welcome thoughts on this. I understand what they were trying to do. They were trying to get people to match. Perhaps this might work, but I think that it might confuse people too, if they are having difficulty following many directions at the same time, because we know that's what happens with dementia. So you've gotten them to do that. They match it on this side, but when you turn it over, they're not really matching the colors of the puzzle. So I would just welcome some thoughts on that. It's just something that I noticed, that I experienced. So I wanted to show you that.
I think I would agree. I think that would make me very confused. And I also don't have dementia, but I think that, not understanding, especially they don't have that, that color spatial type of, ability to recognize when shapes end, etc. I think it could be really confusing. And even if you don't have dementia, that could be really confusing too. So I agree.
And, here's the thing too, and this is where we stand out as therapists, because, as a CTRS and as a, what we do, we know how to do that. Like we can find a way to understand what they need to do and find a way for them to do it. So there are a lot of people who produce these products and people out there that are using them maybe in different settings. So I can understand maybe them wanting, but for me, this is what I know, because I've been doing this for a while. And I think that something like that is really a waste of money, but that's my opinion. And yes, it is very confusing. And while we're on the topic, and we're not, I'm not criticizing and, ripping them apart, because they do put out nice puzzles. However, like I said, puzzles that I had ordered and used in the past, in my experience, this is what has happened. So this is the cat puzzle I showed you earlier, right? Comes in a box like this. And the thing I do like about it is it has some questions, to make conversation about cats, okay? What I don't like about it is, and I have to flip this out to show you. I actually took the puzzle out, in one big piece like this. I would use the puzzle like this, take the pieces apart and then use the box, as the picture so that they know what it's supposed to look like. What they do, because this puzzle happens to be a 13-piece puzzle, they do this thing where they put this, okay? So again, I understand what they were trying to do with this, but again, from what I've experienced with people, visually, it's very confusing and tricky. So I understand you want them to try to match the piece, to fit it in, but it somehow it often gets lost. And in addition, doing a puzzle in a tray for a lot of people is infantilizing. It kind of makes them feel like a kid. So, I still use those, but I take them out of the box and we do it that way.
I think you hit on the two things I was going to say, that yes, absolutely, it's infantilizing. And also, like I said, with that spatial depth perception, if I see those pieces that are supposed to be there and I go to grab them and they're not there, I can get confused, I can get agitated.
Exactly. Just that part of it in itself can be confusing. We have to remember that, because we talked a lot about visual spatial skills in the first part of this, and that is a big part. And one of the biggest reasons why we do these types of puzzles is so that people can maintain that, so that they can be aware of their environment and find things and put things and do things.
Right.
That's why puzzles are so great.
I think it's like we were talking about earlier, it's a difference between, quote unquote, just rec and rec therapy. That's where it's activities versus recreation therapy with elders with dementia. And I think that's where the delineation really happens.
Yeah, it's, like, I always think it's like who, what, when, where, like, who are we, who is the person you're working with? What are their functioning, skills? What, I actually wrote that down because it was a good way for me to get that point across, like what? So what are you choosing for them? When? Obviously, that's an important thing too. When, what part of the day are you doing this? Where? Why? That's the biggie. Why? Evidence-based. Why are you doing this? Why is this the thing you chose? And how? How are we adapting it so that the person will get that outcome from it and, and enjoy doing it too? Because again, that's, there's some overlapping with a lot of these things. Sometimes it can look like or feel like occupational therapy. Well, that's the difference. They're doing it as, an enjoyable activity. It's not just a task that we want them to do. So now we'll talk about some goals. So think about what specific goals is the person working on right now. So, I'll give you some examples in the next few slides. A social goal, cognitive goal. Is it person-centered? What is the person's communication skills, their learning style? What do they need more visual? Are they still using language? There's a lot of things that come into play for choosing any puzzle. And specifically with jigsaw puzzles, the number of pieces, the color, is it simple or busy? Again, getting back to, the vegetable puzzle. It's 12 pieces, but it's pretty simple, right? You have some red, you got some orange, visually, it's a pretty pleasing picture. This is a 12-piece puzzle too. This is my favorite, different kinds of ice creams. Maybe not as easy to follow. But then you have also, I have just puzzles all over the place here. So then you have autumn, which is a little more simpler than, again, another 24-piece puzzle, a lot of cars. So you can still do the same number of pieces for somebody, but make it a little more challenging as far as the picture. So here's one example. So decreased upper body movement and poor fine motor skills. And I promise you, I know I talk a lot about functioning. I also am a certified personal trainer too. And you know what? It was one of the good things I did for myself, because it does help me. You know, again, there's a lot of functioning, there's a lot of motor skills and things that start to decrease as a person progresses, you know, with their dementia. So for me, being able to offer things that can help, excuse me, and being able to do some other types of programs that I feel like I can offer a lot to people. So a physical goal would be client will increase upper body strength by using jigsaw puzzles as a means to increase range of motion and fine motor skills. That's a pretty straightforward goal, right? Their objective, client will attend puzzle program 2 times a week for 30 minutes, for 30 days or whatever, you know, if you're doing monthly goals or quarterly goals, and will remove all pieces from the box and lay them out face up without taking a rest break. So, you know, and of course, you have to change the goal if it's, you know, too difficult, or change part of the goal, but that's what we do as therapists. Then if they meet that goal, then a new, that objective rather, could be client will attend puzzle program 2 times a week for 30 minutes for 30 days and will successfully set up puzzle with box at arm's length distance. So now maybe you're moving the puzzle pieces a little further away. That may not work if visually they cannot. That might just be for setup then. You know, you have to adjust the goal as you go along. So the concern is decreased attention and limited independent leisure interests. So a cognitive goal could be develop their independent leisure pursuits by using jigsaw puzzles as a means to increase attention. So this could be somebody that is, you know, maybe enjoying doing the puzzles, and all of a sudden they're not being able to sit down and do that. You need to focus on their attention to task. Client will participate in independent jigsaw puzzle to be assessed and implemented by RT, then supervised by volunteer 1 time a week for 30 minutes for 30 days. And, you know, here is a good way, again, to, you know, to utilize volunteers. Where I worked, we had a lot of volunteers. And at one point, I actually left my full-time job when my dad was ill. My dad actually passed from frontal temporal dementia, and he was in the nursing home where I had worked at that time. So I left. And because I needed to just be a daughter, not an employee. And I actually became the volunteer coordinator. It was like a contracted position. And we did a lot of great things with that. So, you know, I know it's really often challenging when you have many things to do and you have, you know, different groups and paperwork and all of that. But it's a great way to get that independent one-on-one with a client. So a social goal, minimal peer relationships, isolating, and minimal conversation. I mean, this is a very common concern. So a client will develop a new peer relationship by engaging in conversation with other group members during puzzle club. I just called it puzzle club. So here you can see the objective and a new objective if the person then meets that objective. Before I go on, any comments or questions on any of that? Okay. All right, so moving right along. These are some other types of puzzles, and I think we don't often think of them as puzzles, but they are. Spot the difference, sequencing, matching, and, you know, the one in the middle, sequencing, again, this is where, you know, as a therapist, you need to understand the person and, you know, where they're at, what they can do. So we do know a lot more than we used to. And if you compare a person with Alzheimer's disease to a person who has frontal temporal dementia, their programming is going to be a lot different. Because I can tell you this, and it is proven, sequencing is something that gets lost early on because of the part of the brain that is affected in frontotemporal dementia. The frontal lobe is in charge of a lot of those functions, the executive functioning, planning and sequencing, things like that. So I put this up here for you. Spot the difference. There's a lot of stuff out there. Like I said, I would make a lot of my own things because I make it very individual. I'm working one-on-one with people. I did find that one resource on the right. As you look at the pictures, they're kind of outdated. I mean, I don't really think that people really look like that anymore as far as what they wear to the beach, but they're cute. You could use stuff like that maybe for people who are older. But again, we're serving all different ages. Dementia is not just older people. We have people who have younger onset, and frontotemporal dementia happens to affect people who are younger. So this is a great activity for somebody who likes sushi. I do not like sushi, but I thought it was a good example. There is a lot going on. There's only one difference. So that's the whole thing. You can make this as, challenging or as easier as possible. If you look at that picture, can anybody see what the difference is? There's only one in the sushi picture. Anybody?
I'm still looking.
I know it's, Melissa, it's 1 o'clock or 1:30 on Sunday. We've
The
been
top center.
I was going to say, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, it's the top center. There's just a tiny little piece that's removed.
Yes, that orange piece.
Yes.
Okay, that's actually there's two then. See, that just shows you how tired I am. Okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
you're talking about in the like upper
Right hand
like
edge.
towards the right, there's like a little orange and it's not on the left. Okay, there is one more though. There's one more.
Boy.
The one that I found, so.
Okay, so that's got to be towards the very bottom edge toward the left, about halfway point to the left.
Okay.
Ah, yes.
And the difference is?
Piece is removed. Correct?
Okay, right, that's on the bottom. Yeah. Okay.
That white piece.
Yep.
Yes.
And there is one more.
Aha.
Okay.
You guys are good though, because I spotted the one.
Oh, there's a different in the color in the piece of sushi that's all the way to the right down.
That's it.
The lower spot. It's yellow instead of green.
It's got like spots on it.
You guys are good because I can't spot one single thing.
Well, I'm just glad we could all just be honest, okay?
There's also a different number.
Week.
There's a different number of slices of tuna on the plate.
That's it too. Yep. That's right. There's more tuna on the plate to the right.
Oh, and the
Wow.
on the one to the right, the top part, I guess, is that salmon. There's not as many striation lines in that piece.
That's right.
Wow.
I
Wow.
can't believe I just saw that, to be honest with you. But wait, then there's a little white piece dead center, that white square. If you look over, it's missing all those little black spots, I guess, of rice or seaweed. I don't know. I don't eat sushi myself, so I don't know.
Sesame seeds. Yep, you're right.
Okay, so there is more than one. And so what I did was I told you all there was just one, right? And then as you found them, did you feel successful?
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
I love it. This is what I tell my students. We do sneaky therapy.
Yeah.
That was
Because what I did was I set you up for success.
yes.
So you can do that too. You can do that too. Not that we want to, mess with people's minds and stuff, but
Right.
I kind of did that to you all because, I can right now. It's the last day of this. And, like I said, we've been Zooming and, all that. But, you can do stuff like that. And you could just, even if there's 5 differences, you can just say, hey, can you help me find the difference in this? And then, that could be the goal for that day. And then, you keep showing them this picture and they get used to what it is. Or you start with things that are simpler, pictures that just have one difference. What I love about this as a puzzle is you could do so much with this. I had had a client, you know, he did pass away, as I mentioned in the first part of this, but he was a photographer. So we used to take a lot of pictures. You can take pictures of things, or you can do it, you know, for yourself, and, you know, take pictures of things that are personal to that person and do your own thing. Like just lay out some items, take a picture of it, then take an item away, you know, things like that. You can make your own. Or you can go, there's lots of pictures, you know, just Google spot the difference puzzles, you'll find things like this. So I like this as a puzzle. It's also good for people who, you know, have lost, you know, language and can't do some of the things that I'll show you in a little bit. And then, you know, we talked about sequencing. You know, it was hard to find some ways to illustrate what I'm trying to convey. You know, again, we don't want to become occupational therapists. I love occupational therapists. You know, my sister-in-law is one, but we're recreation therapists. So, you know, you can take things like this, you know, maybe somebody who enjoys cooking, and you can use words if they're able to read it. You can like take pictures of the steps to making cookies. You know, it's very functional too. If you're using cooking as an intervention, I use that a lot. You can then use, you know, some cognitive things, taking an interest of theirs. You could do numbers. So if the person can still count and understand sequencing numbers, you could do a lot with that one with the baking. But on the left, just you can make it to something that the person enjoys doing and make just 3 sequence pictures. And, you know, to start out, to help them out, you can even take those little stickers and number them 1, 2, 3. And that's starting easy, you know, 1, 2, 3. Then when they start to look at the picture and understand what it is that you want them to do, they'll put them in order. And even more so, to adapt that, what you could actually do is take all 3 pictures in order, take a picture of it, and then just cut it and have them kind of do it as a puzzle and match it, where you strategically cut off so they have to match, like the part of the side of the, in this example, the side of the car, like what comes next, and they match it. So they're doing a puzzle and they're sequencing at the same time. So it's a good way to like combine things. Yeah, the matching I'll show you. But again, you know, if you look online, a lot of times you can see stuff like this, but a lot of it is like activities of daily living. So it becomes a little bit more occupational therapy. So you have to kind of look around. So matching, I put these 2 pictures. I do have quite a few things I'll show you for this. Let me just move this disaster that I'm in. I took these 2 because, again, you know, we want to find things that are, you know, person-centered. We want to find things that are, you know, not really childish. A lot of the matching stuff out there, you can get away with some of it. I'll show you in a minute. But, you know, I like the one on the left, you know, for somebody who just loves baseball or happens to love the Arizona Diamondbacks. You know, you could take these, and sometimes if the things in there are too small, you can take pictures of them. You know, I laminate everything. I like things that are large and easy to use. The one on the right, I mean, who doesn't like candy? And I think that's a great matching game. You know, it's got pictures and it's got words. So, you know, it's kind of like a, you know, kind of remembering, like a reminiscence thing too. Like I remember eating Twizzlers as a kid, you know, stuff like that. But I'll show you some of the matching that I have here. So in simplest forms, I'll show you this. Just this. Okay. So these are just pictures, you know, that I get that magazine Birds in Bloom. So I cut a lot of stuff out from there. So this is very simple. Okay. But the color too. So, you know, visually, it's easy for a person to start out. Maybe they're just matching the color, you know, 2 pink cards together, but it's both the same picture. Right? More flowers. Somebody that really enjoys gardening and flowers, you could do stuff like this. But again, you know, even the pictures themselves might be too much for somebody. So you could use something like, lost the other one I had. Oh, here it is. Shapes, okay. These are cards I made myself. They came with like shapes and the name of it. You don't really need the name on that, just the shape. Could do stuff like this. Okay, very, very simple matching. Then you could do, I like these. I actually ordered these. These two, this is now more categorizing, not really matching, okay? A puzzle, yes, not exactly matching, but you know, sometimes people lose that ability to categorize, all right? We will talk about that a little more. But, you know, putting that little green sticker, people know, okay, these are all types of flowers. And there's another activity. You know, there is really only one answer. If you do non-living and living, and then you have little pictures where people have to match up and categorizing that way. And to make it a little easier to start, you could actually put like blue stickers on all of the living and red stickers on all of the non-living. That's another idea of matching. These are things, I found this in Target. It comes with these little games in here. There's one in here that is a matching. I don't know if you could see it here. Some of the things in here are okay if you blow them up. One of them is like candy. You know, it's got like lollipops and stuff. But again, things like this they're not great because they do kind of look childish. I found this game. It's a matching game. Again, it's got the names of them on there. You don't really, you know, pictures to be matched are fine. When you see the names on it, it does kind of look a little more childish. But for somebody that really enjoys animals and might enjoy this activity, you know, the pictures are really pretty. You know, they've got like a fox, they're very small. I think the things are small. Maybe what I would do was I would maybe blow this up and take off the name of it. You know, again, it's, you know, using something that you have and trying to adapt it just in a better way. You know, I always ask families when I work with them and I go there, I ask to see what they're using or what they have, because, you know, I try to save people money because, you know, then they can hire me. And we don't want to spend a lot of money on things that are not going to work. I need to kind of assess where a person's at before we, you know, need to maybe order something or buy anything. So I showed you that. So that's matching. That's just some of the things that I've done, and, you know, maybe giving you some ideas on what you could do for matching. Any questions or comments on that? Yeah, we're gonna have to pick it up a little bit here.
So you do have a comment from Lacey that says that Hearthstone Montessori is also a good resource.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Hearthstone Montessori is also a good resource.
Yes, and yes, the Montessori. In fact, these the ones that I showed you with the living and the non-living, I've ordered stuff from them too. Just that in itself is a really good class to take. You know, especially if you work really individually, if you work a lot with people who are in, you know, later stages. I think they have a lot of really good ideas. And I like their philosophy. Again, you know, I'm a dementia care practitioner, and I think that you have to get educated too. You know, that's the whole communication and understanding it, and then taking what you know as a therapist and combining it. And that's really what I do. So yes, they're a great resource. So talking about word games, also known as word game puzzles, generally used as a source of entertainment, but can additionally serve an educational purpose. So when we think about all of the different word games, there's reasons why, you know, people can still do certain games or word puzzles, and then there's reasons why they cannot. And understanding the brain and understanding the progression of dementia, that helps you to program better too. We talked all about the different functioning parts as far as, you know, visuospatial and all of that. Language it's tricky. I remember in the beginning setting out to do this, I used to hear a lot of different things, and I I knew it, but I didn't know why. And that's, again, we want to know why we're doing things, not because we know it's good, but why. Okay. And for me, I like to know that. I want to know why. I didn't understand. Somebody told me, well, the frontal lobe is where, language. Well, that's partly true. As you'll see in a minute, it's not just in a person's frontal lobe. So there are other parts of the brain that have to do with language. So there's a reason why when I work with clients that, maybe they can't understand a word. We know all about receptive and expressive aphasia, but I do activities with people, I do puzzles, and they can do one part of it, but they can't do another, and I could never understand that. So I researched language to understand further. And so this is what I have for you today. There are 5 language components: phonology, which is the sounds of a language and how they're combined to form words and phrases. So there's a difference between church and chirp. Okay, they differ by one phoneme. Morphology, word structure through units of meaning. Example, learn and relearn. So we add re to learn and it changes the whole meaning of the word. Semantics, the knowledge of word meanings. Okay, so for specific words, categories, and context to determine the meaning or select the appropriate word. And that's one of the things that you see people struggle with when they have dementia, finding the right word. Syntax relates to rules that govern word order in phrases and sentences. This area influences comprehension of oral and written language. Pragmatics deals with the use of language and the knowledge of the function of various forms of language, knowing when to use a word or expression for a particular purpose. People with Alzheimer's disease often have difficulty with language expression, word fluency, and naming objects. Perfect example, you could show them, a picture of a dog. They may not be able to tell you the word dog, but they can tell you some things about that picture. Syntax and comprehension of language are usually preserved in earlier stages. In later stages, speech may be lessened due to word finding difficulties. So when you look at the brain, that's the frontal lobes. Okay. When you look at the parts of the brain controlling language, there are different parts of the brain. And just quickly to go through this, you have the Broca's area. That's necessary to form and express language. So again, when you're talking about something like, Scrabble or things like this, they have to be able to form it, okay? They may not be able to express it because maybe that part is diminished, but they may be able to still build words. The part called the angular gyrus assembles information to help us understand words and concepts. That's another part of the brain. All right, the insular cortex, which is buried underneath the outer lobes of the cerebral cortex, is important for many functions, okay? Motor control, emotion, but it's also important in the processing of language. Then you have Wernicke's area, which works with the other parts, the insular cortex, basal ganglia, to process words and word sequences to determine context and meaning. So there's lots of different things going on in a person's brain when they are using language, understanding it, speaking it, reading it, forming words. So that made a lot of sense to me. That's basically what I just told you. So when we think about the types of word puzzles, there are different things that we use with our clients, right? And we may do ourselves crossword puzzles. It's not one of my favorite things, but my husband loves crossword puzzles. And they were actually invented by Arthur Wynne in December 1913. And he was an editor at the New York World, which needed a new game for the fun section. So crossword puzzles, you might do these now. I would say probably more with people who are in, earlier stages. So there might be simple crossword puzzles that you can actually adapt. I know there's different things you can do, like on a whiteboard. You can, if you want to do a crossword puzzle individually with somebody, yes, you can use written, you can use a board, you could actually use these. I actually used bananagrams with a client of mine who loved Scrabble, but she couldn't really do Scrabble anymore because the board itself has a lot of things going on, and it really distracted her. So we did kind of Scrabble using these, and she actually could build words, and we kind of made our own crossword puzzle as we went along. And then to really make it a little less challenging for her, we used to pick a theme. And, you know, and she loved animals. So I said, let's do animals. And she was able to use, you know, all of the letters that were available. I, as she was doing that, I was like busily trying to find, you know, all the right letters that she would have, because there's a lot of letters here, you know. Then to make it, you know, to adapt it for someone, maybe making it simpler, you could choose, I don't know, you could choose a category to make it a lot simpler where there's not so many letters involved. That's how you would actually maybe make your own. That's an idea I just gave you right there. Word searches. So word searches, you know, those are great for people, you know, maybe who really enjoy doing word searches. There's, they have the large print ones that, you know, you can buy. But, and I'll just show you an example here. Like these I got from, I got these from Keeping Busy too. These are actually like laminated word finds, okay? So, you know, even just looking at something like this, there's a lot of letters there, okay? But, you know, somebody who enjoys doing this, it's large print, okay? And there's a category that if somebody can still, you know, understand a category, the seasons, it kind of limits the words they're looking for. The other thing that I do like about this is that in a typical word find, word search, the letters will, the words will go, you know, across or down or backwards or diagonal. On these, they only go up and down and, you know, straight across. They don't go backwards and they don't go diagonally. So that in itself makes it a little bit easier for someone. But that's a lot.
I like this idea, Melissa, because then you're like cutting down on resources too.
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything as we go along.
Yeah.
But I'll show you some other things that are in this. You get this really nice kit. So I showed you, you know, here you are starting, you know, with somebody that is maybe, you know, more functioning, earlier stages. But then they also give you, and I like these because you can reuse them too, you know, is very from a therapeutic perspective. And if it's something the person really likes, hey, you can photocopy it and give it to them. I like this because now you have a simpler puzzle. Okay, so you have a lot less letters going on. Again, it gives you the words they're looking for, right? And it continues on the back. So you're kind of like, you're giving them the entire puzzle, but like in two pieces. So it's like a little easier for them to focus on. You have garden words here, and then when you turn around, oh, okay, there's more garden words. So it's, you know, one category on a card. You got garden, you've got, you know, weather. There's all these different categories. What I really like about this is, and then of course, again, we have some more challenging ones because they're smaller, a lot of words. But I'm going to show this to you. They have, this is one of the, they have them in Spanish. So you know what? Wouldn't it be cool if they had them in lots of different languages, right? So this is in Spanish. Okay. So I think that's a pretty good resource. That's from Keeping Busy. You know, and again, you know, we're good at that. That's what we do. We take things and, you know, maybe we don't like one part of it. You know, you can make it work. You can individualize it for the person. Scrabble, we talked about that. So then I did want to talk about this for a second because I think it's important to cover. Somebody had asked in the first part, you know, a lot of the things that I show you, pretty much all of them are, you know, they're here in front of us. And that doesn't mean that you cannot use things on the computer, because I know that a lot of people do that. I do it, do it myself now. My husband loves doing Scrabble with his family. They go back and forth, and I know a lot of adults like to do that. So some of your clients might enjoy some of those things, and you know what, they can continue to do so. And I think that moving forward, because where we use computers and more people are, that will actually be more of a resource. I would hope that people would start to adapt those things like they have done with all of these other things. So that's something that we as therapists really need to be aware of and kind of advocate for, because these are the things that we use in what we do. And if they are, then we'll buy them, so the companies, they benefit, right? And I do give you some resources for some online things. So we talked about this, we talked about the bananagrams. Oh, I think I put this here just to show you like a bigger example. Again, creating your own crossword puzzle. Looking at this, I take pictures of a lot of things. What you could do is design, even if you used this, right? If these words are simple enough for whatever word you want to use, you could kind of design your own. And then to maybe kind of cue people, you could actually take a picture of this and then kind of make like a template of the spaces and put like the first letter, like a crossword puzzle has, or, it's a little easier than just giving the clues. There's a way that you could make this work. And my point I'm trying to make is that just taking all the letters required to make that puzzle, so that they don't have to go through the whole bag of letters, which, can be overwhelming. Overwhelming for me too, trying to work with somebody. And just a couple more word puzzles. A jumble, we've all heard of that. Show you an example in a second. What I did create for you over here, I want to show you some things that I've done with some of my clients as far as like a word scramble, okay? Because I know that, you can do this in groups, and then you may have some people who really can't do that anymore in a group setting the way that you're trying to do it. So if you do it individually as a word scramble, again, you can use lots of different things to kind of see where a person is at and make it, fun and challenging for them. And again, just kind of getting back to what we discussed in the first part, we have to remember that, whatever simplest form you give somebody a puzzle and they are successful at it, that's a success for them, because people with dementia are losing a lot of their abilities. So for someone to feel successful at something, it's, we're therapists, we know that. Sometimes those little small achievements are big, right? So that could be the difference between somebody, smiling and feeling really good about themselves to continue on during that day. So I'll show you some of these things in a moment. Word scramble, anagrams. Anagrams, you have probably done like a variation on that. You'll take like spring is here, and then how many words can we make from that? Again, going back to what we talked about earlier, can people do that? If people are not able to put words together, they can't do that. That's not a good, program for them. That's not going to work. But I did want to show you, for people who, can do this, there are simple anagrams. These are true anagrams, okay? Because the definition of an anagram is you actually use all of the words, all of the letters in the word. So tar is rat. And some of these I never realized. They're kind of interesting. I like the ones on the right, a gentleman, elegant man, So these are just kind of fun. If you wanted to use any of those for yourself. But I want to show you this. So this first example here is, let me show you. Before I show you that, I know I ramble a lot. Please bear with me. Sometimes what happens is you can't use these anymore. And they are small. That could just be one reason. They become too difficult for the person to handle, and then you don't want them to become frustrated. They can still do the idea of putting, you know, spelling words or whatever it is you're doing. Sometimes people start to put things in their mouth, and that's not good either. So we don't want people to choke. So you can actually just make letter cards. You know, you can make them nice, and, you know, I only did a few, but you could do some of the things I'm going to show you using cards. And again, it could just be a puzzle of just matching two letters together. Okay. One idea. So the first thing I have here, I have the word goat. Okay. So this is the word that you want them to unscramble. So you can give it to them like this. Okay. And then see if they can unscramble it, you know, by writing, by using a pen. You can do puzzles like this, or you can do things like this using the letters. And you have just the letters of that word, and you can actually lay it out like this. So it's kind of like giving you a cue too. So you could lay letters out like this, and being able to then sometimes move them around helps somebody figure it out because of where they may be in their dementia, rather than just being able to look at it and unscramble it. So it's a way to adapt a word scramble. And you can, you know, make these and have them, it's, you know, something that you can use. This is it's a puzzle, but it's a therapeutic puzzle.
I think it's also really good for infection control also. If you leave it in those bags and have them move it within the bags, firstly, it works on their dexterity, but also you
Yep.
could move it down in between patients and
Right.
keep COVID protocol if, you know, your facility is still doing that.
Yeah, and you know, I'll tell you, I was a germaphobe before all of this stuff. This stuff happened, but you know, again, I work with people, you know, individually. So whatever, you know, I'm creating, it becomes theirs. But that doesn't mean that, you know, I always want to keep things clean. And you know, I just bought a laminating machine because I mean, I spend a lot of money on that. So for me, that was a good idea. And, you know, laminating things, you just wipe it off and it stays, because, you know, things get messy and they get bent and, you know,
Right.
people chew on them or whatever. So it just kind of keeps everything nice. And then another thing that you can do is, but before I forget to show you, this I didn't put at the end. And I realized that, but I like these books. Has anybody ever seen this book? It's called Jogging Your Noggin.
Nobody
Yes,
is.
we've got it.
Okay, this book is really good. It's great, you know, when you're doing group activities, but I go through here and I find, you know, like just to find some of the words, like I just opened to a couple of pages, like, you know, I know we could all think of ideas for words, but, you know, this is an example from the book. It's called Unscramble the Letters to Make a Word. So you could even take these to make these little, you know, little puzzles if you're looking for ideas. And then also, you know, for people who can still understand, you know, it's kind of like a puzzle that way, like a matching puzzle. You can use something like this, where I actually used this one, a fruit used to make a traditional pie. Well, I just said a fruit used to make a pie, which is an apple. So they give you the answer, they give you the first letter, and then you have to fill it in. So you could actually create that yourself using those letters, right? And you could even put the spaces with the letter. So you could start with it not so challenging, and then just kind of see and, you know, kind of increase it, because this is a great activity. And, you know, again, looking at words and being able to unscramble them, they may have the capability to do so, but we have to also make it sometimes, you know, less challenging, where they can actually go through that process. And these things are a great way to get there, by moving letters around. So I really like this book. And then there's, they have another one. I think they have several, but this is Jogging Your Noggin too. And it's by Mary Randolph. I like those books. Okay. This is just an example. You could take a picture of this if you want and solve it and email me. I worked on this. I worked on this when I was really tired, and I said, I can't do this right now. But, you know, again, you could take something like this and, you know, you could create your own. And again, these are really, you know, I always looked for ways to try to get people motivated to do things. You could even make it like a contest too, you know, you could kind of introduce it somehow and then, you know, see who could solve it and have like a contest. Or you could use it as a, you know, an individual activity as well and just simplify it. You know, you could have a very simple phrase and then use the same concept. But again, this is for somebody that would be able to understand, you know, all of the steps to this. So, you know, maybe it's just a matter of a category and can you unscramble these 4 words, you know, with a theme. So these are the resources that I promised you. Golden Carers, that is the one where when we were doing the Spot the Difference, if you go on their website, they have a lot of different things on there, all different kinds of matching. It's a good resource. You know, again, you take from there, you know, what will work for you. And it gives you ideas, then you can kind of do your own thing. Do you want me to just leave these slowly or you can tell me when I can change it? Yes. I'll go to the next one.
Yep.
Okay. These are the ones that, Active Minds, that's up there. Somebody was asking about that. So if you go to Puzzle Warehouse, what I like about that is it's general. They have several different companies they use. So if you go on there and you're looking specifically for, you know, somebody likes fishing and you try to, then you go to that category and then it will show you number of pieces. So Puzzle Warehouse will give you puzzles that you can get, you know, as low as like 12 pieces all the way up to 5,000, depending on what you're looking for. And, you know, and different companies participate in that. And then of course, Amazon, we all know that. I order a lot of things through there. MindStart is one of, that's this, the boxes that I was showing you before, MindStart. They have a lot. They also have, what else do I have here? Here's another one. Puzzle with Me. Didn't give you that one. But they are on Puzzle Warehouse. It's another good one, Puzzle with Me. Active Minds. Now the other 2 there that have the little stars next to them, those are online resources. And some of them that are on there are quite good. Again, you know, a person that enjoys using the computer, a person that is able to do the puzzle on there, but they actually have jigsaw puzzles, you know, where you have to, you know, move and fit the pieces. They have word game puzzles on that usatoday.com. So those are 2 good resources for you to check out. And there's lots of stuff in there to get ideas. Just leave it up for another second. Okay. Good.
I think so.
Yep.
Okay, this is a slide that I had in the first part, but I wanted to bring it up again. And the reason why is because we talked about, you know, making things person-centered. So the first one, though, the only thing that's not good about it is that the minimum is 48 pieces. So, you know, if that's okay, that's one resource. The second one will create a personal puzzle. What they do is you send them a picture. It could be a picture of you. It could be a picture of someone's family. It could be a picture of whatever, whatever, you know, you want that person to have to do a puzzle with. And the second one I like is because you can get anywhere from a 4-piece puzzle all the way to 2,000. And they also offer magnetic puzzles. So when we were talking earlier about, you know, the idea of having like a board for somebody and having to do it, you could do a puzzle that way. And they actually will make magnetic puzzles. And that's me. So, yeah, you know, I would love people, you know, you could always email me. I love to hear, you know, I look for ideas all the time. I try to stay in touch with people. I kind of have like my own little circle of people because I'm out here, you know, doing this myself. So it's just why I come to the conferences. And especially Nystra, because even though I live in South Carolina, I have, you know, people that I've made friends with, and, you know, we get to see each other every year, and I love that. So that tells you a lot about Nystra. But, you know, have any questions, or, you know, you're doing something really great, or, you know, because I will use that idea too. I'm always looking for ideas. And that's it.
Thank you so much. Just wanted to let you know, Suzette wrote, this was great. Thank you.
Here I am.
Lynn wrote, thank you. This has been great. So absolutely, I would agree with everybody. I think this has been wonderful. So thank you so much for agreeing to, you know, help out and do extra, because I know everything got all
It was
screwed up
fun.
with technology, but thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. I hope everybody enjoyed it. If you haven't already, at least commented in the chat, please do so that I have your attendance, and then submit the attestation form. Otherwise, thank you very much, everybody, and have a wonderful Sunday.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, I can sign off now, right?
Yes, absolutely.